The Celestials are the oldest, most powerful, and also most mysterious beings in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But based on the concept art for Eternals, it looks like we'll be getting much more familiar with these godlike creatures. But what exactly can we expect from the Celestials? So who or what exactly are the Celestials? For one, they're very big, bigger than planets even. In the concept art for Eternals, we see one of them posted up beside a planet and its moon. As you can see, the planet is only slightly bigger than one of the Celestials' eyes, and the moon, compared to the Celestial, is the size of a piece of pocketland. But the Celestials aren't just big, they're also very old. Some of the oldest beings in the Marvel Universe, in fact. They were created billions of years ago by the first firmament, which is probably best described as a sentient universe. The firmament was the only sentient universe, so it was lonely, and it decided to make some kids. Some of them were loyal and they followed every wish of their creator. These kids were called the aspirants, as in aspiration. They aspired to emulate the first firmament. But the others decided to rebel. This group of rebels, although they may sound an awful lot like Lucifer and his angels, are actually the Celestials. The two groups ended up in a battle and the Celestials won, banishing their parent, the first firmament, to the outer reaches of the universe. The weapon that the Celestials used to take down the aspirants and the firmament was so powerful that it created the multiverse that we now know and love. Within this new multiverse, the Celestials dedicated themselves to creating new, independent forms of life and returning every now and then to help them grow. Each time the Celestials visit a planet to help out, it's called a host. During one of these hostings on Earth, while experimenting on the unknowing humans, the Celestials created the Eternals, a kind of hybrid of humans and the Celestials. They're nearly invincible and their powers include mind reading, flying, the manipulation of matter, and super strength, among others. They can also assume human form. But when the Celestials created the Eternals, they also created a disfigured, evil version of them called Deviants. Thanos is an Eternal, but with a recessive deviant gene, which is why he's evil and purple. The Guardians of the Galaxy movies are the only place in the whole MCU where we've actually seen the Celestials. In Volume 1, the Collector shows a Celestial mowing down a civilization like wheat in a field during his explanation of the Infinity Stones. He explains that the Celestials are some of the only beings powerful enough to use them. And although they're powerful, the Celestials are not immortal, as evidenced by the fact that this whole scene takes place in the Nowhere, which is the severed head of a Celestial adrift in space. This head looks just like the one in the concept art. In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Quill's dad, Ego, is also a Celestial, but he looks different. To be specific, he looks like Kurt Russell, which means that it's not just the Eternals who can take human form, but the Celestials too. So they won't just look like giant humanoid robots. They'll also be able to shapeshift into genuinely human form. Personally, we're hoping that they take on the shape of some other characters from Escape from New York. The official word on how the Celestials will look in Eternals is, as usual, pretty vague. Kevin Feige said at San Diego Comic-Con that the Eternals will be a story that will introduce you to this incredibly eclectic group of immortals. They're the focus of the story. The Celestials go back a long way. We know a little bit about them. The Collector told us about the Celestials. Nowhere is the severed head of a Celestial. Ego was involved with them, but we learn much more about their agenda and what they're up to. They'll likely end up going toe-to-toe with their offspring, the Eternals, who, if the comics are anything to go by, will be led by Ikaris. He's played by Richard Madden, who you will probably recognize as Robb Stark from Game of Thrones. In the comics, Ikaris is the most powerful of the Eternals, although he might not be this way in the film, as they've already made many departures from the source material. And although she's not the main Eternal in the comics, Thena is being played by Angelina Jolie, which means she will probably be front and center in the movie. In the original story, she got mad about humans confusing her with Athena, the Greek goddess, and in the world of Marvel, Athens was actually named after the Eternal, not the Greek Athena. The Eternals will also likely spend much of the movie in regular old human form. As we see in the most recent Eternals miniseries written by Neil Gaiman, many of the Eternals took on human forms, and after staying in them for so long, somehow even forgot the fact that they are near invincible demigods. Thena, in her human form, is actually a researcher at Stark Labs and begins to remember her past as an Eternal when she starts having nightmares about battles from back in the day. Eternals comes out in November of this year. How do you think the Celestials will figure into Eternals? Will they be mowing down civilizations like they did in Guardians of the Galaxy? Or will they be more benevolent? Let us know in the comments and subscribe to CBR for everything Marvel.